Okay, well, enough of that ragged. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to welcome you to episode
12.
12 of the Forge Intelligence podcast. Okay, where today we are. How do we want to label this? Do we chronic dieting?
We are
Basically,
what
we're
we
talking
eat.
about. Well, okay, I'm a pussy.
I missed everything just there. What happened? Future Connor, you can edit this shit. Actually, no.
We'll edit
Actually,
this.
no.
We'll edit
The
this.
audience can listen to what a shit show we run here. They can understand. Anyway, yeah, we're talking about chronic dieting. Carry on, Nick.
Yes. And then Prantic says, "You are what you eat," and I said, "I am a pussy."
Oh,
One
So
pussy.
you eat cats?
does that make you
That's
lesbian or
not-
not? That's really confusing.
Yeah.
What do you mean? How does that make you lesbian?
Well, if you are a pussy and you eat pussy, does that make you a
Yeah.
lesbian?
Like I'm a pussy. Like I'm flat out. You are what you eat. I'm just telling you, I'm a pussy. That's just what I am. No
I
holding back.
fuck you.
I'm not ashamed of who I am. Fuck you guys. Okay, all right. So, anyways,
Round two.
moving on from that topic. Okay, that brings us. So, yes, our topic today is going to be about chronic dieting, and we're going to bring it to our, first question to the audience, which is how important is consistency for dieting? So, Prantic, I want to start you off with this, just because it's a giant fuck you to Connor. So, Tick, let's start off with you, okay? How important is consistency? You've gone through a lot of your bodybuilding competitions and stuff like that, so you actually are quite strict to timeframes and things like that. Tell us your experience.
All right. So, importance of dieting. I feel like dieting has been a big part of my life. Last 5 years, I've been stuck to the same breakfast, same dinner, if not the same lunch. By same breakfast, same dinner, I mean like same 6 eggs. Same 8 eggs, out of which 2 are whole, and then the rest 6 are egg whites, and a bowl of oats. And that has been my breakfast every morning till date.
That's a lie, guys. I went out for breakfast with him 2 years ago. We had eggs Benedict and shit like that. So he flat out lied. Like, fuck off, Frantic.
No, that was not like the morning, like those are like
Aw.
exceptionals. Like you don't see a sun in a Sunday morning, you know that something's wrong. So that's out of the ordinary. So no, I'm just saying like that. I'm not like I've stuck to 100% of it, but yes, most parts of it, it's an easy breakfast, so it's easy to make. So I made it. I've switched between boiling the eggs and cooking them. But the thing with consistency is when you build up that, according to the psychological factor, if you practice a habit for 21 days, it becomes a part of you. So if you kind of practice dieting and practice that strict form of eating, every meal should be healthy for 21 days. That taste from your mouth just disappears, and that craving obviously heightens, but at the same time you see changes in your body which fuels your drive to stay consistent. There isn't a better definition of this in my book, rather than what I just said. So if you are driven by the changes that you're making because of your dietary changes, then that is consistency, and you're sticking to your diet automatically. So yes, consistency is very important to make changes that you want to see in the mirror, or changes that you want to see in someone. If you're talking from a trainer or a coach's perspective who's training a client and want to see some changes in him, the coach has to be diligent with the diet he provides the client, and at the same time the client also has to be diligent with the diet provided to him or her by the coach or the trainer. So consistency is the key.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I mean, and like to put it simple, like if we're talking about the importance of consistency in a diet, like obviously the perfect diet to go along with your training program. If you only stick to it 1 or 2 days a week, right? See you later results.
Mm-hmm.
Consistency is important. We got to get that fact out of the way. Like, if performance is like one of your driving factors, if training, if just everything, your life is, got to do with, training and just performing better, looking better, all those different things. Dieting is such a key thing, and we've got to be consistent at that. And if you're kind of just half-assing it or only doing it 10% good of the week, it's not really going to get you anywhere. But I kind of just want to break it down a little bit more. Like consistency, I know, Prantik, you were talking about how you did the same thing every single day,
Mm-hmm.
blah, blah, blah. Like consistency isn't always about doing the same shit every day, right? Unless you're just someone totally routine driven, which
Yeah.
by all means, there are people like that out there. But, consistency can also be considered, just having those, like you were talking about habits over, a 21-day period. So we're talking about lifestyle changes here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're able to, make those, lifestyle changes, like positive lifestyle changes, become a habit, right? That's a form of consistency. Another thing I would like to express is that even if you're not getting results too, like if you're someone that is struggling, but you feel like you're doing the right things, like again, if you're struggling, if you're not getting results, but you still like kind of, all right, like what did I do wrong? What what can I learn from this? At the end of the day, as long as you know what you want and you keep chasing it, there's signs of consistency there, right? That's from a mental aspect, like they're really good factors that you need to consider. And I want people to understand that, especially like if you are feeling a little bit down, or if you are feeling like you are doing everything right but things aren't going your way, as long as you keep searching, and keep trying to understand, or like outsourcing and trying to get a trainer to help you or something like that, as long as you're kind of putting yourself going forwards, you
Mm-hmm.
are setting up a consistent, habitable lifestyle for yourself. So that's kind of like my take on how important consistency is, from, yes, like training and all that, but more on this topic, dieting for sure.
I think another thing to always remember with like the game, just in its nature, it's not like a really short-term game. Like it's not like you perfect 3 hours and you're shredded, or you perfect 3 hours and you're huge. It's
Yeah,
a long
wish.
process over a long time. Again, some people, might have the perfect baseline. They're so close to their goal and whatever, and so it's not a huge deal, having the perfect approach over 10 years, or even like a consistent halfway good approach over 10 years, because it's so close to the goal. But even for them, if you are able to do things consistently, you just get there quicker. And like with Brantic saying, with developing habits and stuff, there's a reason, there's a phrase, get the ball rolling. It's like, once the ball is rolling, it's easy to keep them rolling. And like if you just get through those patches, suddenly, you can, going from like day 6 being good to day 7 being good is a lot easier than going from, okay, complete start day 0 to day 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to just keep the thing moving, because at the end of the day, we're trying to accumulate the best amount of days, the best amount of reps. It's almost like reps over time in terms of, good days. Yeah, so I think it's just in its nature.
Hmm.
I,
That's a very
I
nice
agree.
point.
Like when you that the way you put it, like get the ball rolling. Sorry, I'm like that. I know I'm going back on the training topic again here, but I'm like that with training. Once there's momentum going, there's like literally nothing stopping me. Like if, let's say, I've just had like a lazy couple weeks or 3 weeks, or training's just hasn't been structured or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like being in lockdown is a great way of looking at it for myself. So there was patches where I was just like whatever about it. I find I struggle to get the ball rolling, but I know once I just get my shit together and get that ball rolling, momentum really just carries me forwards. Like Connor says, those first couple of days might be, but once it's rolling, you seriously just
Mm-hmm.
roll with it. 100% agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can kind of just ruin the whole thing. Imagine like with training, you're after progressive overload, and imagine you're naturally trying to progress, reps in reserve, like you try and make them like, less reps in reserve, trying to train harder in some format. if you suddenly, let's say like your 6 week program and you skip a complete session week 3, all the momentum of the previous 2 weeks are kind of bit left behind. You're to a degree starting from week 1 because, well, we resensitize a few things, but it'd be too much overload to go from week 2 to week 4, especially if not training for 2 weeks or whatever. It can just really fuddle things, and it sounds weird, but I think consistency is so important that I'd almost prefer to get some things wrong as long as you're consistent. An example, so I've got a person like, I work with the diet, and, let's say like I'm going to use a random number. They'll eat on, let's say, 500 grams of carbs a day on average. Now imagine if they were sneakily, here's the example. The truth is they were accidentally, because they misread like the rice thing, they're accidentally having 650 carbs a day.
Okay.
I did not care. I really did not care. They told me like in 6 weeks, it's like, have I ruined everything? And it's like, well, no, I've just like, this is numbers have changed. I've been able to see like, has it been working and has it not been? If you're 500, 500, 650, 500, 650, and I couldn't figure out why you're not getting results, that'd be a lot different to just the number being wrong or the approach being slightly wrong. Again, if you're really consistent, it makes it easy to pull variables away and you can just go from there. It's like people ask me, can I have sauce on my meals and stuff like that? I'm like, just keep it consistent, and we don't even worry about it. As long as it's not like, tomato sauce isn't there, then it is, and we're all confused why certain things are happening. If it's there all the way across, then, hey, that's fine. I can manipulate other variables around it or pull it away. At least I know it's there and you're consistent. So it's not like, well, I could kind of pull back. And imagine I was pulling back someone 300 calories a week, but they're having an extra, like, 1,000-calorie bomb like every other day. It's counteractive, especially if we're trying to control variables to get a response. Again, consistency is huge, even if it's slightly wrong.
Correct, 100%. Sweet. That brings us to our next topic. So we'll go into something a bit more specific in terms of chronic health, but we're going to go more about what are some issues that we find in with a chronic deficit. So those people that have been long-term dieting and they've developed particular issues just being in a deficit for that long. What are you guys' thoughts? Any takeaways or something you've seen with people that have been in situations like that?
I think
Or for yourself?
I think one of the biggest pitfalls in staying consistent with whatever you're doing is the level that some people start with or are introduced to. So let me explain that in easier words. So by level, I mean, suppose you're introducing someone for the first time to dieting, where you're cutting out the sugar. You're going to eventually cut off the sugar, which is the goal. But then again, this person, for example, if this person, let's consider that this person is obese and you're trying to bring him or her into shape from and trying to get rid of obesity, the first biggest thing that a obese person has in their list is lots of calorific high calorie sugar food, that is sweets and a lot of stuff like that. So if someone just straight away cuts them off their sugary diet, uh, there's going to be a collapse in their pathway of like the connection that brain creates with the food that they always have, which is kind of something that gives them that comfort, uh, and then that way the person, whoever is trying to be set on the correct path, just loses control, because it's like taking away a cigarette from a chain smoker who smokes like a pack a day, pack of 30 cigarettes a day. You take away one cigarette and tell him, okay, here we go on the path of change. You're gonna give up smoking. That's not how you do it. So that's a wrong way. A lot of people do it like that, just take up harsh dieting from day two. Oh, tomorrow I'm dieting from tomorrow, which is wrong. It's kind of it's like uh, a TV show. It builds up like season one, season two. It builds up like that. Season one, episode one, like probably 10 episodes in there. So you start with like probably whoever had this um, chronic breakdown of like, okay, I can't survive without sugar. give them a little bit of sugar every day and then reduce the quantity over time. And by the end of the month or end of the week, you'll see the person has done a lot well and a lot better. They're living on half the sugar, and the craving has also gone down by half. This is something which I wanted to start with. One of the pitfalls of dieting, and uh, dieting doesn't have to be very hard. A lot of people think that, oh, Monday onwards I'll diet. But a lot of people also think that it's super hard. It's going to be bland food. No, it's not going to. It's not bland food. As Connor mentioned, like consistency in using sauce or the sort of stuff which I use as well. I use tomato ketchup on my tomato sauce on my food, and that helps me balance my insulin level in the body, which also has a scientific point. And I think it's very important to do it. So that kind of adds that sweetness, a little bit of flavor to my food, which is otherwise just tossed with salt and pepper. And nowadays also I'm just like cooking the chicken breast. I'm just hammering it up with a mallet and then flattening it up, cooking it, and then cutting it up and adding it to my rice with some veggies. So that kind of changes up, twists up stuff, but everything is measured. Um, as from perspective of failure in keeping it consistent, I have seen a lot of people fail. A lot of people go down that wrong route on the second week. First week of dieting, they do it and then they do a little bit wrong, or they don't go back and refer to their trainer or whoever is helping them do the dieting. uh, and they think that sometimes they think that, okay, I'm not doing anything wrong, I'll cheat meal here and there. I mean, it's not bad, cheat meal is not bad, but cheat meal is only good only when you're like really into the thing, only when you're really set up with the diet and you're very comfortable with your dieting. And that's when you want a cheat meal, because you haven't had that probably candy floss for a long time. So go ahead, have a good, have a candy floss. So stuff like that. I mean, my roommates often make food every night, and try to keep away from that, but I'll generally have a teaspoon of whatever food they'll make, be it preparation of a chicken or some other vegetables. I'll have a teaspoon of it. First of all, obviously, to maintain like a fair ground of friendship with them, and then again also to keep those taste buds in my face and mouth alive. A teaspoon of undiety food, as I as I call it, won't hurt you. So there you go.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cool points like with that, Matthew's principle of like, you just like get people in the door. And if you're able to do just little changes, because I think people are a lot better doing little changes versus big changes. But let's say we're now like getting into like, a diet. We're 2 weeks in and now we're in the groove. And let's say like it's you're doing contest prep, right? And you're like, from 14 to 12 weeks out, let's say it's a transition phase.
Mm-hmm.
And then 12 weeks to like 4 weeks, you're shredding hard, stuff like that. I think where Nick was like also intrigued is what kind of issues do you see? Let's say like you've got the consistency side nailed down. Again, it's big what if, because I think most people should focus on consistency more. It's usually the reason not progressing, not these other things. But let's say, you're 12 weeks down to 4 weeks. What are some issues with just keep on dieting hard? What are some issues you see with that? It could be training related. It could be like hormonal. It could be energy. It could be performance. Any stuff like that you see? Like, if you just keep pushing too hard too long?
If you're dead set on a goal, like if you're doing a competition or you're doing one of those weight loss challenges at the F50 gyms or F45 gyms and other sort of stuff, I think you are going to, the biggest thing that you're going to face is craving, because you're eating that specific type of food. Probably you haven't got a burger or a pizza for a long time, so that craving of a cheese or the salt sometimes comes through as well, because when there's sodium deficit in your diet, like not sodium, I would say, NaCl, sodium chloride deficit, to be more specific. So salt deficit in your diet actually gives you that, boosts up that craving for salt. So then you want that burger or pizza if you can smell it. And the world is not, like every corner of the world is full of a Macca's. So if you pass by and you smell that fresh French fry frying, that's what kind of throws you off sometimes as well. But I've seen this with myself as well when I was comp prepping. That it is really, really, it needs a really different type of mindset. Just to like, you need to be dialed in all the time just to be consistent with your diet. When you're especially going for a competition or something.
Yeah. Do
Um,
you reckon you could do it all year or no?
it's difficult for someone like me. But if it comes to being, if that would have been my work or my job, I would have done it. Like that would have been my bread earner. I would have done it for sure. So
I think if caloric intake is chronically low, you gotta understand that your health will deteriorate.
yeah, yeah.
Like if it's chronically low,
It's like
100%.
wrong numbers.
Yeah, like Connor brought up like a lot of like different key points before. Like, I mean, chronically low health can go, yeah. So Connor was talking hormonal. So for females, your menstrual cycle, like you could lose your menstrual cycle. Reproductive function can obviously go down. Libido can go down. You can talk about other immune
Your face can
system,
sink in.
thyroid function,
Yep.
fatigue. Like fatigue is like a major one you'll probably realize straight away. Like think of like
Hypertension.
all the like think like the moment that your performance in the gym starts to like deteriorate, like, or think of like when people have like short tempers and shit like that. So like I think a big like you might know if you've dieted for a very long period of time, you'll probably start to notice when you're in the gym, like you'll find that working out is a lot harder. But you know, not only that, man, like injuries. You know, injuries can occur from this. Just like there's so many different things that can occur from if we're just looking at a real chronic, you know, condition of someone really chronically dieting for, like Connor said, all year long. Yeah, you like if you're in those levels, you're kind of pushing boundaries quite heavily. So that's like when it comes back to the question of what are some of the issues, there's loads of issues when you're at that end, for sure.
Yeah, I think you raised some really good points there. I think, yeah, again, in the nature of, let's say, you know, you're chronic dieting, one of the goals is fat loss. It's pretty fair to say most people are doing chronic dieting is usually for fat loss goals, unless they're just completely off. You're trying to get massive, trying to get massively strong, get huge, get jacked. Chronically being in a deficit probably isn't the way to go. So just making sure we're talking about the right population, the ones that are trying to lose weight, in particular fat. So with the nature of, you know, fat loss, there's a few things we've got to consider. We do need to be in a deficit. So there's one side of thing. The longer in a deficit, the more time we can have losing fat. There are definitely like good reasons to be in deficit and for a long time. But there are definitely issues, particularly with efficiency, with performance, with health. So we'll start off with, again, with fat loss and losing weight, we have the ability to lose fat mass and we have the ability to lose muscle mass. There's two pretty big, you know, things. Yeah, there are little other
huge
things here and there, but they're the big things we're dealing with weight loss. Like if you do a contest prep and you're losing 40 pounds, and let's say you notice like, you know, 20 pounds of that is muscle, 20 pounds is fat, you screwed up your contest prep, right, Francie? Like the look
you know you've lost, so there's no point.
It's softer, like there's all this shit that comes along with it for sure.
There's no point. Yeah.
So we need to like make sure, okay, it's not just fat loss, it's muscle retention.
Hey, dieting is not like, I'm sorry, but dieting is not only bland following a pattern, but being smart about it as well.
Yeah, you got to do the right approach, or else you're going to run into so many issues. Like you could just, you know, like we've all seen scenarios, people just slash calories and they fall apart, you know, and we'll get to some of the issues, you know, with doing that in a second, right? Yeah, so we've got to preserve muscle. And part of the ways we do that is like, you know, keeping performance good, making sure we're not chronically, you know, covering fatigue. Like Nick says, you know, if you're on a diet, you're going to have high levels of fatigue. But again, there might be phases where, okay, we need to like at least pause things to really, you know, let fatigue completely drop, let muscle mass fully come up. On the hormonal side of things, there are some adaptations that happen when you are low on body fat, just in nature, even if you're at maintenance or surplus. And there are other issues that if you're in a deficit, just like there are issues if you're in a caloric surplus, independent of if you're overweight. So some of these problems are you're just too lean in the first place. So particularly if you're just too lean in the first place, it can be like the nature of how hard you diet.
Mm-hmm.
That's usually a lot of the hormonal things. So if you look at the example of, imagine philosophically we're looking at reproduction and evolution and this and that. There's a bit of truth of survival of the fittest. So imagine I was you'd want to incentivize things or people of good health to reproduce because that's going to lead to better offspring. In the same sense that let's say the lady, she needs to have enough food, body fat, this and that to support herself and the baby. And I think if you look at that zoomed out as a concept, you can almost zoom in and understand, okay, if you're doing pushing too hard, you're doing all these things, you might struggle with libido, sex drive. As a guy, you might have reproductive, particularly menstrual cycle issues for a lady. But I think the other side of things with fat loss is often it's just efficiency and mindset as well. I mean, 1 week running at 50% versus 1 week running at 100% obviously produce very different results. And I think the longer you go at things, the efficiency starts to go down. And that's when you can, get hormones in a better place so the efficiency can improve. So imagine them going down, things aren't working. We put a pause on things. We maintain for 3 days up to a month. Who knows? And then those systems are up and running again. So you can run back at 100% efficiency. As well as it can be a good psychological break, it gives you a chance to fill out. You as a bodybuilder, you might be feeling just, oh man, I'm feeling flat, I don't think I could be good for a show. Get filled out again. And it's okay, maybe I can do this, But yeah, that's a few thoughts there and some of the issues from a zoomed out perspective of chronic dieting.
I feel like for a lot of the gen population in particular, for some of them, that's the only phase of when they think about training and dieting, that's all they really know. Fat loss is the only thing. When you bring up different terms of maintenance diet or calorie surplus and stuff like that, it's totally new world to them because a lot of them come to the gym in the first place to lose weight, and the only way to know to lose weight is to eat less and train more and things like that. So for some of them, that's all they know, and you'll notice a lot of the time when they do get those weight goals, they some of them can stack it back on, but then what do they go from there? They don't know where to go going forwards. So educating people on how maintenance calorie phases and even surplus phases can kind of add benefit towards your fat loss goals in future. Just teaching them and helping them understand okay, even though we're upping your calories, this is actually going to help you with your fat loss going forward, whatever the goal may be. Kind of helping people understand that nature of it can really what's the word I'm trying to get out?
Help them stay on path.
Just stay on path and not go through those chronic conditions which can lead to all sorts of issues.
Exactly.
You don't want to. So that's one of the main things I want to get out of that. But anyways, no, that was awesome, guys. I guess the next thing we want to talk about here is just where do cheat meals come into the mix. I know, Tick, you talked about that before. Some of the pros and cons about it. I have my thoughts on cheat meals, but Prantik, considering you kind of had a brief discussion on it before, I'll let you kick off again. Giant fuck you to Connor. Yeah.
It is.
Where this is coming from.
It's like a bully sesh. I don't know. It's like a bully sesh. I don't know what's gone into me. I'm so sorry.
Carry on, Prantik.
Taco Tuesday. No, I don't know, Connor. But probably we can all tune in at the same time and cross each other's path. I mean, everybody, all of us have been
Crossing
through this.
swords. Is that what you mean?
No, I didn't mean that at
God,
all.
no.
This is not King Arthur. But I'm just saying that I think all of us has been through this phase where we are craving for a cheat meal, or we made up a day just like that. Oh, let's go out for a cheat meal. I know we have been in a lot of good places to have food.
Certainly have.
So
Just start
What's
off
the
with
best?
what you think the pros and cons. Okay, yeah, go there.
yeah. Okay. So, cheat meal, is it necessary? I feel like it is. but is it absolutely necessary? It is when you're really like strictly dieting for a long time, and you have that, because when you diet and when you do it strictly, for someone like me, you get how do you call this, so you get all the taste buds, the habit of the taste buds being exposed to spicy, or kind of food with different taste, that changes. So whenever you eat food that is probably a little bit off your diet chart, you feel the taste, and you like it triggers a good feeling in your brain. I guess it releases dopamine for my case. So for example, if I eat a little bit of butter chicken, or butter preparation of cottage cheese, that'll trigger a thing on my brain, and I'll feel happy. So that would
Do you find it
be,
helps you like? Do you find it helps you like stick to your just normal diet? The fact that you
yeah,
just had a cheat meal, you're like, oh, now that I've had this, I can just stick to what I'm.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can stick more adherence, shall I say? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a support for your diet days. I like to take it like that. Now, I don't know, not if everybody takes it like that, but I feel like a cheat meal day is like a support for you to be consistent with your diet. Uh, it acts like a system that actually uh, gives you that satisfaction, and then brings you back with more and better focus.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
yes,
Mm.
cheat meal is
What about
very
some
necessary.
cons? Do you have any
Uh,
cons?
That is difficult because you will never know when you have cons. So sometimes the problems with cheat meal can be, yes, can be problems. For example, indigestion, because if you're having a cheat meal and then probably you haven't had that food for a long time, your stomach might not be able to handle it if it's like spicy, if it's a spicy food, if it's a food with different blends of stuff, or probably milk, and you haven't had milk for a long time, you might
Stomach can have a
end up
party.
stomach party. Yeah, you might have a party, and then the exit of the party might not be so well. So that can be one of the biggest cons. I have faced this on my own, so I know it. It definitely happens.
Mm,
So the first bite you take in, and after the first gulp, you start hearing noises from your stomach. It's as if somebody's tearing clothes in there, and then it'll be like
mm,
weird noises in there, and then obviously gastrointestinal issues, by which I mean just like building up of foul gases, and then um, problems following that. But that is very common with people who are having cheat meal, because they are not used to the body, or the system is not used to that meal, and then it
mhm.
just tries to process it, and it takes a little bit longer than usual to process it, because it has not been having that spice for a long time. Stuff like that.
As far
Mm.
as pros go, I like yeah, I agree with what you said. How like there's that dopamine songs, that feel good experience of just like your taste buds, just all the joyful things, right? I think it definitely has some benefits. Like if it helps you if it helps you keep you on track, if having that little block of chocolate or whatever. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people I know that love block of chocolate. If having that little block of chocolate just kind of helps you stay, you know, 99% good the rest of the way. Um, by all means, like
Hmm.
there's some definite benefits there. As far as cons go, um, actually, I'll stick on the pros for a little bit now. But I'll go to you, Connor. I want to hear your thoughts on what are some
Mm.
pros before I go on to cons, because I have a bit of a long topic there. But you go. What are your pros for cheat meals?
Um, Certain individuals, it's a chance to decompress. I think sometimes when we look at cheat meals, there's a few different scenarios you can imagine. There can be the person that's just in their room alone, shoveling ice cream, kind of think like post breakup style. Like, it's just a chance to get away from like the diet or the bad breakup. And then you've got other scenarios of like, you're with your family, you're enjoying the social experience, stuff like that. Things that might necessarily not be a huge plus to your overall physique, health side of things, that might help the other components of your life. Because again, we do need to make sure they're covered and not going to bite you in the
Mm,
ass later on. I mean, if you are dieting and then your wife divorces you because you've been paying enough attention. You're like, I'm sorry, I'm just too crabby. I can't focus on you. I just need to focus on like, this bodybuilding dream that's not going to work out. Then there's going to be certain issues that pop up there. It's going to affect, well, suddenly you're paying all this money towards your divorce and you can't buy a chicken breast, So again, like things kind of like, you'll be buying some cheap meat.
Did you just come up with this shit in your head at that time?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
That was great. That was great.
Yeah, pro sometimes, can be an opportunity to have, like, let's say I've worked with, like, some competitors. There's probably better ways to go about it, but there's an idea that, it can be a chance to see what they look like in more of a full perspective. Like, and that can correlate with, okay, we just shoot up the body weight a little bit temporarily. Maybe the performance the next day would be higher. Like, there might be, like, let's say you're squatting and you're working towards a powerlifting meet or something like that. And we're trying to get down a weight class. Imagine you're trying to hit the 100 kilo weight class and you're currently 104 kilos. You've got a few weeks to go, whatever. We're trying to lose weight, but we're trying to make sure performance is good. Maybe it might be a good idea to have something, eat something, in a sense that you're in a deficit. But then you have something that's going to artificially have your weight higher with like, bloating, water, like, retention, that kind of thing versus body fat higher. Then you got to pull it all at the end and fuck up your performance. Might be weird examples like that, but yeah, that's pretty much as far as I can go for pros. Other than that, you can, just post it to your Instagram, get some like, good clout, post it to Melbourne's Baz feeds. You can just see what you're doing,
Yeah. Cool. 100% agree. As far as the cons go, I mean, Prantico, like I know you briefly touched on this as well, but I want to know what your thoughts are on this too. For me personally, I just think the idea of like cheat meals, I think some problems can occur is when a cheat meal becomes, as they say, like a cheat day or days. So some people are very good routine based. Some people are very good at like sticking to things for quite long term. And let's just say there's like, oh my God, we're going to do like a planned cheat day in 3 weeks. Right. But then for some people, that cheat day could totally fuck up their like momentum. We'll just talk about momentum before in terms of training. It's like taking that day off or whatever. And then next minute, like, I don't know, it can just fuck up, everything going forward. So for some people, it's not the best thing, right? But, like, and, of course, for some people it is. Here's the other thing, like cheating. Like some people don't have a very good association with the word cheating. Some ethical judgments and things like that. So, I mean, like you don't want to cause bad relationships with food. Okay, so that's definitely a con when we're now talking about like food controlling people. Definitely not something that you want to go down the route of. Another con is sometimes for people, like most of the time, like people don't really track their cheat meals. So like tracking it is very hard to figure out. And if you don't track it and you overindulge, it can it's like kind of makes you ask the questions. Oh my God, what do I do like for the next following week? Like sometimes you better, like Connor actually talks about this in a recent video we just published. But you're better off just taking a loss at that point. But it can become really hard if you are within a time frame. So if you are got a competition coming up and things like that, it's like, oh my God, what do I do now? My goal is in 3 weeks time. That's when it becomes hard. But if you're just someone who's, like just your everyday gym goer, but you're training, hard and you're eating well and things like that. If you have had a cheat day and you really fucked up, like, sometimes take the loss. But if there is structure to it, like targets and things like that, if your goal, if it's a deficit, but you still want to enjoy fun foods out there, sometimes it's best to just not have your calories as high as you normally do throughout the week. I tend to actually do this. So, like for example, if I know a good calorie deficit for myself is 2,500, for example, maybe I'll make every single day 2,400. Like, to be honest, 100 calories is not going to really upset me too much. I'm just going to throw a random number here. So that's 100 calorie extra deficit for me per day. That at the end of the week, that's like an extra 700 calories I could have. So I'm saying, all right, maybe on a Friday, here is my planned cheat meal. Here's something I've accounted for. I do this, it works good. It's my version of saying, oh, this is a refeed day. I enjoy it, may not work for you, but if you're going to do it, there should be some structure to it. And sometimes you just need to allow for wiggle rooms and things like that. But if there's no structure, if there's no time frame, and you've really fucked up, like just to the point where you don't know what you've done, seriously, just take the hit. It's okay. Like move on. You know, like as they say, you just gotta move on and continue on with where you left off. So that's the main thing. You know, if you've gone like 4,000 calories, for example, doesn't mean you need to go 1,000 for the next 10 days. Just go back to what you were normally doing, and you know things will work out eventually.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think it's a really good point.
Very
So I
nice.
think like what you're saying is like this accumulation with Nick's example of like, you know, he pulls back, you know, 100 calories 7 times a week, you know, so he can have the extra 700 calorie bomb at whatever stage. I think that kind of ties to like the big thing of, you know, we are not trying to win the day. It's almost not, some people conceptualize dieting, for example, as, let's say you had one cheat meal day. They might say, okay, I had 6 good days and I had 1 bad day. I've got a net positive of 5 good days. I'm getting leaner quicker. Well, the thing is, if you blow out so much on that one day, you actually can counteract those, you know, 6 days. It's calories across the week, across the month, across the year as like more of a predicting factor, you know? So I think there's definitely some dangers. And like what Nick was saying with like structure, not sure if I think he was saying about, I'm not sure if you're saying this is, you know, how it fits across the week, but another weird thing you see is like the timing of your cheat meal. Like if you do it for breakfast, and people really struggle to get back on board, they're just like, okay, the day is over. Because again, they view things not as a spectrum, as shades of gray. They view it as black or white. It's like, oh, it's, you know, it's bad day. It's a write-off. And I'm sorry, write-offs don't work for your body. It's not like, you know, we're bankrupt. We'll just start, you know, the check account from like, you know, 0 tomorrow and you can go from there. No, you've got to pay that debt, you know. So I think, you know, there's another like argument you hear out there that, you know, it's a good psychological relief. And I presented maybe an example of where it could be. But to say across the board it's a good psychological relief, I don't think is a true statement either. So there might be like context and circumstances where that's the case. But people that have a bad relationship with food, it can be the furthest thing from it. So one thing that you might say is like, okay, a cheat meal is a high. But again, there's more than just looking at the high, there's a consequential low afterwards. You know, you see people really struggle the next few days to get back on the diet. There's a few reasons for that. One is actually more of like a microbe thing. So imagine like you're a chronic deficit across the week. You're churning through, you know, you got bacteria, like let's say you're like low carbs, you're not feeding like the bacteria and whatnot. You're depleting all the good and bad. You basically re-inject it with the bad bacteria. They're going to be craving a lot of shit food from there. Like those, just like we're talking about with getting the ball rolling, those next few days are particularly hard and your gut biome is in a particularly bad spot because you've done literally the worst thing. You've poured out all the good or bad and just filled it in with bad potentially.
Yep.
With your tactic. Another thing is, again, with the psychological factor of putting the cheat meal on the pedestal. And I've done that. Everyone's done that, especially as you're dieting, like you're looking forward to it so much. And it's like, oh, it's going to be the best thing ever. But here's what really happens, especially once you're deep into it. You're getting there, you're so excited, like, oh, here we go. But the moment you have the first bite, it's like, oh my God, this is good. But in the back of your head, you're like, I'm one bite closer towards this thing I've been putting on the pedestal being over, and I have to return to that terrible thing called deficit, which is particularly bad because I've overdone things and the cheat meal is so good, so it's such a contrast. I'm going to dip down this huge hill. That is starting to go in the back of your head. And that's why people really struggle to like, okay, burgers and fries, done. That's why they grab, okay, I'm going to grab some cookies and ice cream on the way home. And they keep going and they struggle to go back on the next day because the contrast is huge. And to say that's stress relief when that's going in the back of your heart, back of your mind, that's a huge stressor. So now suddenly you've got a circumstance where the food, the cheat meal has so much control over you because not only in that individual thing is somewhat of a stressor, it's also making the rest of your week look that much worse. And you're not looking forward to it. This is like, you're not looking forward to something, you can chuck adherence out the window pretty much. So
I know people that have used the term victory meal. Like they think, oh, cheat is bad, right? Which, you know, whatever, right? But then they change it to victory meal and it's exactly what you're saying. It's like, oh my God, I'm looking forward to this. Oh, I've had it. Oh, now I've got to go back to my shit life. Yeah. You know, kind of thing. It's exactly what you're saying.
Even while you're having it though, like
Yeah.
like what the first bite is like one bite closer to you being gone. Like you often don't even get to
People
enjoy
trying
it
to
that
be
much.
innovative. Yeah. 100.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
fucking hell. It's
Now I understand as well, like, with like the wording and stuff like that, like it's all food, like, it's not going to kill
Yeah.
you, like, like, well, I guess it can, but like one meal usually is going to kill you. Yeah, like leading cause of disease and a bunch of things. Probably a bit of a wrong statement
but
there,
it's
especially for health and fitness
it's more
podcast.
about it's more about people in the industry. I think people are trying to be innovative in the sense of, oh, let's change the wording of it and maybe we can sell something out of it. But at the end of the day, like, your mental state is your mental state. Your psychology is your psychology. Who you are and how your relationship is with food. Like the moment food is controlling you, that's where shit goes fucking downhill. So,
Mhm.
I couldn't agree
And
more.
Sorry,
Yeah,
one last point I think I just should mention as well, because this is probably an even bigger thing what we somehow forgot. People love to spout on about the magic of, a cheat meal for boosting their metabolism. When you actually look at like what happens is it'll boost your metabolism for as long as that meal is in your system. It isn't a long enough like process of like caloric feeding to
Mhm.
actually give you any thyroid, leptin, ghrelin adaptations. So like that whole argument that like, I'm doing it to boost my metabolism. When you see people like have a cheat meal and they drop the next day, it's not because you boosted your metabolism. It's because you are under like chronic stress and you're potentially underfed, and particularly if it's a high carbohydrate meal. What you start to see is a stressor has dropped. So you're really just dropping, you're revealing the paycheck, I think, from the previous week's work. You're
Mhm.
not actually like doing all the work just then getting paid, immediately, and you weren't getting paid for not working back then. You're working, you're revealing the adaptation, you're pulling away the curtains, and you're getting paid. So that's what you see the drop there.
So this will tie into what we're talking about next, which can be expanded from one day across multiple weeks. It's the term diet break. So it's a term thrown around a lot in the industry. So now we just like to discuss, when are they warranted? When are the best times, to use them? Connor, let's start with you. I don't want to be mean, but like this is our last topic for the day, so I thought I'd owe it to
Give
you,
it
pay it
away.
forward
Give
by
it
letting
away
you
to
start
Connor.
starting with this one. Let's go.
I kind of like going last, actually. So diet breaks. What was the question? Where do they fit in? Pretty much.
Yeah.
So I guess on a really big like oversimplification, then we can kind of zoom out. The more you've been dieting, the leaner you are, the more just it is. The more you're just getting started. I'm sorry, like your life's been a diet break. Like it's probably not a time. So I think to even start to talk about things like such as diet breaks. The reason we had like the first question is consistency. You need to find ways that you can adhere to a diet that's going to work you towards your goals, and then only once you can comfortably do that do diet breaks enter the question. And usually you use a bunch of markers. So let's say we're trying to, again, like I was saying before, we're trying to balance not just fat loss, we're trying to balance health, the efficiency of that fat loss, and muscle mass. So particularly those like efficiency of fat loss, your health status, and your muscle mass, those markers for all those individual ones are starting to decrease. Therein lies the merit of actually bringing it back up. So I think the leaner you are, the more often a diet break, can be of value.
Mhm.
The more overweight you are, probably not so much. Again, like they got bigger issues in the metabolism drop from dieting for 4 weeks. So you can do this multiple ways. You see people do a more frequent, not as long route, and you see people do a less frequent, more intense route. So an example could be one person diets like straight through 12 weeks, then has like a month off. Or there could be an example of someone like diets for 3 weeks on, 1 week maintenance, 3 weeks, on 1 week maintenance. I think overall, if you have to look at the perspectives, the leaner you are, the more the, more frequent ones seem to help you out more as well. Particularly as well for like, looking at like, the body composition, kind of as I was mentioning before, with revealing the paycheck, it also applies there as well as keeps your metabolism going nice and strong.
I personally like to chuck in a diet break during like a deload week. I think again, as another video Connor released recently, I think the idea through deload weeks is to bring fatigue down, and I think if you've been exposing yourself to long-term dieting, obviously has a lot of impacts on your mental well-being. So I think adding a diet break in, I mean, I know deload, whether you do like a 5-1 paradigm, whatever. or if it's longer, I don't know. But I tend to just chuck it in then. I'm more I don't know about you guys, but like, see, I'm not like, I think I get worked up about if I'm if I can see on like a piece of paper like this is only how much I got to eat, and then if I'm tracking and things like that, I think that's like tracking deficits give me a bit of like I get like I need an actual break of the actual tracking side of things, because let's just say I do take a diet break, right? And I'm not really tracking things all together. I might just end up being in a deficit and I don't even know, right? But I don't feel like I am. Like the mental stress of it is just completely gone because I'm not worrying about tracking or anything like that. So, but then again, like let's just say, you know, Connor was talking about how one day can completely just change things. That would be me during that diet break. There's just that Friday where I completely just fucking go balls to the wall, right? And then like boom, I'm back maintenance again, yay. But so like if we're talking about people that like I said this before, so if there's no time frame involved, I guess you can use it more often. I mean, at the end of the day, there is no right or wrong. It's just when it's really best for you, and you know the type of approach and when you want to take it. Kind of said perfectly about the more overweight people. You know, yes, less frequently, or you said it before, like yeah, those people coming into training, like your whole life's been a diet break. It's so true. But look, you know, at the end of the day, if they help you adhere and sustain you know your diet and your phases to come, definitely chuck it in. This is why I tend to do it more in my deload phases, just because you know, like okay, I've just completed a really tough cycle, like mesocycle. I just want to be fresh and ready to go for the next, you know, 5-6 weeks of training. Because most importantly, that's my goal. Not to just completely, like, not to just diet even more and feel like, oh my god, okay, like let's fucking give this next, you know, 5 weeks ago. It's just I'm cool to chill for 1 week. Sometimes it might need 2 weeks depending on the type of training I've been doing. But that's me personally. Frantic, go ahead.
Diet break. Hold on. Let me take this break off. Okay, here we go. Diet break. Okay. Connor and Nick, you guys have ruined my topic because you guys have mentioned each and every point that can be. But yes, definitely. I will definitely adhere to what you guys just mentioned. Each and every point is right, and Connor's point that comes out uh, shockingly correct, because anyone who's new to dieting, it's a bad news for them. Anyone who has been dieting, it's okay. And anyone who's at a pro level of dieting, it's probably a good thing. So, um, my past experiences on a diet break says that uh, it is something which is done out of necessity if you're competing or if you're doing something very seriously. For example, there was a point when I was prescribed to have burgers every night because it was the last week of my bulk cycle, I think, and I was really pushing that weight. And Nick, you probably remember this was when I was working in Krispy Kreme, and
Oh
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
allowed
I
a
do remember
burger
that.
every night or probably a pizza every night. So I used to turn up to Krispy Kreme with a whole box of large pizza or a burger from UMG on the other side.
That's
Um,
nice.
so that, I wouldn't say that is a diet break. That is a kind of inculcation in your diet, but that
It's a
can
daily
be.
diet break, to be honest.
Yeah, that is a daily diet. That was a daily diet break, and kind of like something that was used to leverage that extra weight, add on of calories to add on that extra weight to your
It's
body.
consistent, all right.
Yeah, it's consistent. At
Yeah.
least
It's
you're
consistent.
having junk food every night. That's
I
consistency.
mean, look, if you're making too much drastic changes in the sense of you're putting on too much weight, just back that cheeseburger up. Maybe you don't. Maybe you only eat a single or something like that. And if you're gaining weight slowly, hey, good to go. Roll with that.
Yeah.
Keep
So
going.
I mean that was not a perfect diet break, but that was still something close to a change in your diet. Um, So yeah, I mean, like diet break is very important for people who are dieting for a long time or for an end goal. Definitely get a diet break. The cheat meal will be a
There
diet
should be
break.
no guesswork. There should be
Yeah,
no guesswork.
as long as there is
Like,
no
shouldn't just
guesswork.
randomly chuck it in there. You shouldn't just go,
Exactly.
oh, let's just randomly give you a diet break
No.
because, like, you read it somewhere on bodybuilding.com that diet breaks may have benefits. Like, no, there needs to
Yeah.
be a plan structure to it for sure.
Exactly.
I think let's help our audience out a bit more. Sorry to like navigate the question away a bit, but I think particularly for takeaways might be important to discuss principles. But now like let's enter a circumstance. So I'm losing weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm hearing this podcast and maybe it's slowed down a little bit. How would I know if I should just keep going, if I should look into all the other variables of my life, blah, 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 or if I need a diet break? Like, how would you go about figuring out what would be in the pros and cons? How would we figure it out if like ex client came to you?
Well, it also depends. Something like that. If you're saying in case of a weight loss journey, right?
Or even imagine like, someone came to you prime tick and like, you just like overlooking them, like, second eye for like, their
Mm-hmm.
physique prep. And, the dieting away, like the 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks out, whatever. And they're like, "Oh, do I just need to keep pushing or do I need a diet break?" Like, what would some things what would pop in your head for like
Um.
how to make that decision?
So if somebody is on so you're talking about people who have an end goal and whose end goal is fixed. So
Yep.
that means that by within a few months or maybe within a few weeks, they have that target date where they want to be somewhere where they plan to be at the beginning of that phase. So for me, the approach would be like I would ask them where they are according to the plan they had made,
Yeah.
and are they on track, and have they arrived at the station that they wish to. So if the train is in station and it's on path and it's on time, then definitely go for it.
That's a
Not a
great
problem.
point. Like if you're ahead of schedule, you can afford to refill
Yeah.
more often.
Even if you're
Yeah.
on schedule, then you know you're not falling off. But if they now this is up to a person himself or herself, they shouldn't lie. Now if you're on the path and you have fallen off, or you're slacking, probably it's not a good idea. Um, Probably if you can pick yourself up and then like push for that goal, it would be better just to finish that goal off and achieve it, and then take a diet break, because in that way it builds you up stronger from up here. um and that's how I think I would judge it. That's what my
Yeah.
recommendations will be. Like, to judge the person, I wouldn't judge him, I would ask him, so to know that the person is knowledgeable enough to know where he or her is at according to the progress path.
Wow, you raised a really interesting point. Like of the classic mental fortitude think about bodybuilders. I mean, imagine like you were able, like there was a pill for there was a pill for people to be able to suffer and persevere when they really did not want to.
Mm-hmm.
How much better people could make their lives. And I guess that's part of the practice you're doing there. Interesting. Yeah. So Nick, you got, let's say like a Gen Pop person, they come to you, you're working with them. They say, do I need a diet break? Do I need to keep dieting? What are some of the questions you'd ask them and how would you figure it out?
Yeah. So, like, I think using the two examples that we've done before, so you talked about a bodybuilding contest, now we're talking about a Gen Pop. I think with the Gen Pop, I presume that this person doesn't have an end goal. Sorry, doesn't have like a set time frame.
Sorry, let me make it up for you. Let me make it up for you. So they need to lose 20 kilos. They've lost 5 kilos. They'd like to do it I'll make sure like there's a timeline there, but it's not like a really rushed timeline. So let's say they've got another 15 kilos to lose in like another half a year.
They got a wedding. Okay.
Got a wedding.
Yeah, they got a wedding in half a year.
They got a wedding in half a year. Look, yeah, to be honest, if they've come to me, do they say, do I need a diet break and things like that? I think it's good to understand and get a good history of them. Just get a history of, all right, what's your training history? What's your diet history? Have you taken a diet break before? And if the answer is yes, like if they have taken a diet break, just kind of understand what changes will happen to them. How did they feel taking that diet break? Did they find that coming off that diet break? Oh, that's cute. Did they find that coming off that diet break the first time, did it help them going forwards? If the answer is yes, that's like, it's not like, oh, okay, let's do a diet break kind of thing. Okay, that ticks one box to say, all right, there's some positive signs to say, all right, this is good going forwards. Look, again, if you're talking to them about asking them, how's their training going? How's just life in general going? If you've been dieting for a long time and you're losing all this weight, the simple questions of how are you feeling? If they're feeling shit, if they're feeling sluggish, if they're feeling tired, if they, all those things, or if,
How shit's acceptable? I guess that might be a question. Like,
so, like they're struggling to sleep. They're struggling to just, let's say they have kids, they're struggling to just struggle to play with their kids and things like that. Just really simple things like staying awake if they're at work or things like that. Just like simple living.
I guess kind of like part of the process of like, losing weight, this and that is to a degree, like your performance isn't going to be as good as well as maintenance or surplus. It's kind of in its nature. In its nature, you're going to feel sluggish. You haven't got as much energy as you need to maintain.
Nature, yes,
where do you draw the line, I guess? Because like I guess some of it's part and parcel. How would you figure out like, okay, yeah, you feel sluggish.
You got to understand. You got to understand how long. Okay, you got to, like, these are the questions you got to ask. Basically, all the topics that we're drawn about today. How long have you been dieting for? If you're finding out that this person has come to you and they're now hitting the realm of those chronic conditions that we were speaking about, okay, maybe it's time that we just have that little diet break. But at the same time, this is where we need to understand what are their habits. So those other questions that we asked, are your habits going to make you consume more diet, cheat meals or whatever for the following days, for the following weeks? Are you going to now lose momentum and things like that? So if you notice that this person ticks the box that no, they're not going to lose momentum, or that you find that they have been dieting for way too long, okay, like now is a good time to probably say, look, right, or like what I said to you before, if weight has actually kind of slowed down a little bit, as in they're not dropping weight as fast, and they are in those kind of like real low zones, and they just don't want to like go down to like 1,000 calories a day for some shit. Maybe it's time to have a decent break. But at the same time, if you're like 3 weeks out of like a wedding or something like that, circumstances may change. There might be, I'm not going to tell anyone, I'm not going to tell anyone out there to do this, but if you have to go into like a 1,200 kind of calorie a day thing in order to fit into your wedding dress or some shit, okay, all right, now you're within a strict time frame right now. There might be some things that we need to do. Like there's no magic diet pill or anything like that else out there, but we got to understand from the broader perspective, if we take this diet break, you might not fit into your wedding dress or your suit or anything like that. Okay, does that matter to you? Of course it matters to you. What matters more, fitting into that or taking this diet break? I think at the end of the day, they're going to think of their end goal at that point, especially if they're very close. If they're very close to where they want to be, they can really push through. But at the end of the day, if you're not in a scenario like that, if they're coming to me and like I said, all those topics that we were talking about before, if they're ticking off a lot of those chronic conditions, or if they've been in those like that long-term scenario, it's a good time to take that diet break for sure.
Yeah, I think it's definitely like, as you're saying, a bit of that where you come from, where you're going style thing. There's like a bit of a context thing. I think another thing you got to look at, like with the nature of like, okay, I'm struggling with like diet for psychological reasons, for efficiency reasons, and I want to touch on that a bit more because it ties to something you said. For your muscle mass, for your health. all those things, your metabolic health in particular. You got to look at, okay, how long do I need to feed you at maintenance or a surplus or whatever to get the desired result?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a month? Is it 3 days? Is it somewhere in between? So I think, just because there's quote unquote, you hear if it's a diet break week, you might get all the adaptations and responses you need at 4 days. You might need 10 days. It depends a lot on a few things. It doesn't make sense to be loyal to the 7-day weekly rule, to govern your physiology, because your physiology just doesn't care, to be honest. So let's say you got the 3 weeks out person, and you're thinking, should I do it? Should I not? Part of the equation we should be thinking about, I think, is efficiency. So by efficiency, I mean, how well can we maintain a big gap of that deficit, both adherence wise, but actually more physiologically wise. Because sometimes what you see is after that refeed, you're able to run at 100% efficiency. So you might see a scenario of, because it can literally be a maths game. So imagine someone was running at 66.6 recurring efficiency for 3 weeks, or they were running at 100% efficiency for 2 weeks. That both equate to the same end number, right? So it's okay, how much efficiency can I expect to gain, and in how much time, and how much time will cost me? I know it's a little bit complex, but it's the right answer. I could say something easier, but it wouldn't be as right. So I think what you're saying as well with the nature of it, there's going to be some suffering, there's going to be some this and that. I think you made a great point before when you said it depends how long you've been doing it. That's definitely one of the things I look for. Another thing I look for is sometimes people stall, and there's other things that could be preventing you from stalling, not your metabolic health. Very often it's just, either you're in higher stress, so you've got water retention,
mental
you've got this
health.
and that, it's not revealing the adaptations, or you've got your NEATs went down in particular. So if you're in deficit, you're not exerting as much, and that's the reason you're pausing. And diet break can kind of help that a little bit to kind of break the cycle, but it wouldn't be the perfect thing. And that example was well, you're actually underdosed on your steps, or you might be a little overdosed on your stress, your non-food related stress, I should say. So again, I think with everything, you've got to have, again, nice example, you'd have a question you'd ask them that's very good and very specific to them about their stress. You'd have a very good metric for steps, you'd have them wear an Apple Watch or something like that. And you'd have tracking of their numbers and this and that for the diet breaks. And it's okay, which one is at the scene of the crime then becomes obvious to you. So I think this is we discussed metrics and having markers for things a few podcasts ago. It's ridiculously important because we're dealing with so many variables all the time. We're never dealing with just one variable. So how the hell can we just move one variable and know it's the right one to do? Well, you got to have clues to tell you that. You can't just guess it and just hope to be right half the time, because the rules just don't pan out. Principles work, So I think the takeaway, people out there, really be critically hard and honest with yourself. If it's you having a little bit of nibble of food, if it's you, not stepping as much, if it's all those things, if you've been dieting a while and your energy, all this is that in a state that you consider unacceptable, then maybe you bring it back up. Yeah, but I think I just really, I know I'm not directly answering it enough because we're saying when should you employ it. I just know there'll be issues. I can just see particularly these issues for people that can't stick to a diet, and I think diet breaks the answer. It can be a little bit, but not really. You really need to find a way to adhere to the diet and stick to it first. That is your number one problem. Just the people that are chronically dieting all the time, they might be oh yeah, it's probably just my steps and this and that. No, you probably need a diet break. You need to be honest with yourself, don't you?
That's very nicely put. I got lost in the conversation.
I like the background. Forge 2.0, represent, guys.
Looks great. Fucking love it. No, sweet. No, that last takeaway, 100% key.
Valuable.
I mean, do you have any takeaways, Prantik, or anything to draw on what Connor just said?
I don't want to add anything, but I'm definitely agreeing on to what Connor just said. And I think we have covered all the points, so I don't have anything extras to add. I'm good. I feel like we had a very feasible and very solid discussion.
I think this is like, speaking behalf of everyone, but I think a lot of the people that are just continuously do reoccurring fat loss phases, like that's the only phase they do, really, watch this podcast like as many times as possible. Like seriously, because there are, pros and cons about that, altogether. Like really not much pro, but like just constant fat loss phases, continuous throughout the rest of your life kind of thing. To be honest, I don't know about you guys, but I see that a lot. And it's conversations I have with a lot of people a lot. And it's a crazy one. But like, I mean, this can draw on maybe another podcast we can talk about another day. But I have people come to me and talk about, like I can't be bothered like eating a lot less. I'm just gonna like move a lot more. I'm just gonna train a lot more. And like what if I train like twice a day and still eat my same surplus calories? Well, I still lose weight kind of thing. Can't I just do that? Like I have so many people ask me 1,000 different questions, but these can be topics that we can discuss in the future. For now,
you know
I'd like
what?
to end
On
it
that
right
future comment, sorry, I just want to pimp
Future
something out because I
take
know we'll
notes.
enjoy it. So for the audience, please like, share, and subscribe. We need it. And one of the reasons is because we've got 5 followers, but more so because if we get enough followers, it's going to mean we can almost format these podcasts differently. We can do Q&As, which could be naturally like a lot less stiff, a lot more fun, and actually answer your direct questions. But we need enough people, following us and asking questions to do that. So we definitely really appreciate like, share, and subscribe. They're not. And then like my 5 different accounts, following the page,
Oh shit. I even put my dog's name on there. I don't even have a dog.
That's good.
So
All right.
let's bring it to a wrap. Wrap it up.
All right.
Wrap
Peace
it
out.
up.
A-Town.
Worst ever wrap up.
Thank you for watching the Forge podcast. If you enjoyed it, we'd love for you to subscribe. If you want to find out more about us, check the description. And as always, thank you for listening.